Federal government announces plan to regularize electricity tariff in a bid to address disparities in the current billing system. Plus, on the news, impeached Speaker of Lagos State House of Assembly Mudashiru Obasa on Thursday storms the Assembly complex. From the international scene, United States has reported its first measles death in a decade after an unvaccinated child fell ill amid an outbreak of the highly contagious disease in Texas. Details of these and more coming your way soon. To stay with us. Many thanks for joining us at this time. Now, details of the news. President Bola Tinubu has given a network operator and RCC company Nigeria Limited an ultimatum to complete the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway before May 10, 2026. The Minister for Works, Senator David Umahi, disclosed this when he met with the network provider over the slow funding and execution of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway under the Infrastructural Development and Refurbishment Investment Tax Credit Scheme. According to Umahi, the network provider will be held responsible for the road fail after construction on account of a shitty job by the contractor, as there will be no variation or VOP on the project. He then urged RCC to note that going forward, the operation of VOP in a project must be in accordance with the procedure contained in the condition of the contract and not the whims or caprices of the contractor.
These are the conditions we've agreed to make a shift to 15th of to 10th of May 2026. That's number one. Number two, we have removed a number of items like the flyover, pedestrian bridge, the park, 72.34 kilometers again. We've removed them from this. So we have allowed 79.34 kilometers. For the remaining 150 billion, based on the conditions. One, there is no variation.
In their separate remarks, the Minister of State for Works and the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Works, extolled the stance of the Federal Ministry of Works and the policies would not only fast-track job execution, but also guarantee value for money and quality project outcome. They urged the contractor to cooperate with the new paradigm under the renewed Hope administration and work towards delivering the Onitsha-Enugu dual carriageway in record time so that the President could commission it for public use. Federal government has announced plans to regularize electricity tariff in a bid to address the disparities in the current billing system as well as encourage investment in the power sector. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, made the disclosure in Abuja at the public presentation of the National Integrated Electricity Policy and Nigeria Integrated Resource Plan on Thursday. Correspondent Kuliojo completes the story.
Speaking at the public presentation of the National Integrated Electricity Policy and Nigeria Integrated Resource Plan on Thursday, the minister said the government is considering this option over the slow pace of migration to Band A customers, which he attributed to the reluctance of distribution companies to make the necessary investments. Under the current structure, customers in Band B who enjoy 18 to 17 hours of electricity supply pay 63 naira per kilowatt hour, while those in Band A with only 2 hours of more supply are charged 209 per kilowatt hour.
Let's collapse the bands to A, B, and C so that we can actually, because the gap between the Band A tariffs and the Band B, Band C, D, and E is just too wide. It's just too wide. And the Band B that is enjoying 17 hours is paying 63 naira. While someone has enjoyed just 20 hours, 2 hours difference of supply is paying 209. So we believe it's not fair. It is not just. And we must be able to carry out some level of regularization. So this is not tariff increase, because our tariff will never go beyond what the Band A is paying. But we need to regularize, internal regularization of the tariffs. among the existing banks.
On the issue of subsidy, the minister said the government will not be able to continue the model of electricity subsidy payments, adding that the federal government is owing generation companies and electricity companies over 4 trillion in electricity subsidy. On her part, Head of Economic Development at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office Nigerian, Sally Woodhouse, maintained that the United Kingdom and Nigeria enjoy long-standing relationship in all areas and promised to support first-class infrastructural development to sustain economic growth. Also, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Power, Mahmood Maman, said the program being launched was designed to address persistent gap in distribution and generation while also ensuring a transition to a more cleaner and sustainable energy solution.
Legacy debt to the GENCOs of almost over 2 trillion, and we have unpaid subsidy for 24 alone of 2 trillion. That's 1.97 trillion. And the one coming from Disco is about 140 billion. It's about 2.1 trillion. Due to the GENCOs, how do you expect the GENCOs to perform optimally? How do you expect them to pay for gas, to service, or to maintain their turbines and infrastructure, to pay for even the staff?
Today's events mark a great milestone for the sector in delivering the Nigeria Electricity Policy and the Nigeria Integrated Resource Plan for Nigeria's energy sector, and demonstrates the commitment of UK and Nigerian governments to addressing Nigeria's energy sector challenges. Specifically on policy, it demonstrates Nigeria's commitment to tech-driven, evidence-based, sustainable energy planning for Nigeria.
We recognize the fact that policy and planning are integral and essential for an efficient, transparent, and investment-friendly power sector. These frameworks have been developed with a clear focus on bridging the persistent gap in generation, transmission, and distribution, while also ensuring a transition to cleaner and more sustainable energy solutions.
High point of the event was a public presentation of National Integrated Electricity Policy and Nigeria Integrated Resource Plan. From Abuja, Kunle Ojo, Galaxy TV.
Now, apart from the federal government reviewing the tariff for electricity, we also have issues of Dangote Group reviewing their prices. Look at the impact of periodic downward review of petrol by the Dangote Group. And joining us in this discussion, we have Gabriel Yonumbe, Electoral Department of Political Science at the International Relations, Taraba State University, joining us from Jalingo. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good evening, everyone, viewers.
All right, so straight to the questions we have. Dangote Refinery had yesterday slashed petrol loading price to 820 naira per litre from 809 naira per litre. What do you think is the general implication of this action against the current economic conditions that is facing many Nigerians?
Yes, to start with, it is a welcome development that Dangote Refinery has considered the plight of Nigerians by slashing down the pump price of PMS to 805 naira per litre. It means that Nigerians will feel some relief in terms of the harsh economic realities that they've been passing through. It means that the prices of goods in the market would also reduce, and Nigerians will make some savings, which will enable them to purchase more goods and services over time. It also means that for the average farmer, for the average householder who is a farmer, there will be more investment to save and then invest in agriculture over the season. That will also mean that economic growth and development will be stimulated, because the money that would have been used in buying fuel, which has now been cut down, will now be saved to venture into other sectors of the economy. And that will mean that the cost of living also will come down a bit, not too much, but it will come down from where it used to be to a present state of things now. So on the whole, we can say that it's a welcome development because Nigerians have been suffering under the yoke of fuel price hikes. And if we have this kind of relief at this time in this country, it is something to be thankful for.
Now, let's look at the other sector where there seems not to be much competition, and that's the federal government making announcement of plans to review electricity tariff for Band B and C. Do you see this new plan as encouraging more investment in the sector, or do you see it increasing the burden on customers, especially the ones in Band B and C?
It is an act of taking away what government had given the people in terms of minimum wage increment, in terms of the little money they have saved from the slash in the pump price of petroleum products. It means that Nigerians to pay more for electricity. It means that many people will be pushed into poverty. People who had been having cost have cost to use electricity time will have to reduce their consumption of electricity. And that will lead them to start consuming non-sustainable sources of energy, like the felling down of trees to get firewood, charcoal, and all that. And that will not augur well sustainable development in the country. We're also talking about the fact that when you have higher electricity to pay, it means the cost of doing business will increase as well. And when the cost of doing business increases, Nigerians will pay more. And in some cases, when you have a business that is not, you do not even have much capital, like the case of medium and small scale or size enterprises, they may be forced to close up. And closure of businesses will lead to further economic stress and stresses. It is not good for the economy, it's not good for everyone, because some people may have to resort to criminal ways of living. And once the wave of crime increases in the society, whatever gain that you would have made in the form of inviting private enterprises to come and invest in the country would be negated over time. So to me, it is not a welcome development. It will go well for the Nigerian economy in the long run.
Thank you so much for sharing your views with us on our news at this time. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
All right, and that's Yonumbe who joined us live from Jalingo. Also joining us to speak on this topic, we have Adebiyi Abosede, a professor from the University of OOU. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us at this time. Okay, all right, if you're still with us, so Dangote has just slashed the price of fuel. What do you think about this move? How do you receive this development?
You see, first and foremost, we have to understand that Dangote is a businessman. And, you know, the challenges he was having with NNPC and is still having. And then the issue with the petroleum marketers. Of course, he has a lot of challenge, more so that according to reports, his production is only able to address 60% of the PMS demand in Nigeria. Therefore, he would not want a situation where importation will create a serious problem to his own organization. And that, as a result of that, he has to go into something that looks more like a price, such that he will continuously reduce his price until importation becomes expensive. And therefore, he will be able to sell whatever he is producing. That is the way I see it. And, you know, he's typical of a business person to do that kind of, to go that kind of way. And more so when you are more or less operating in a very hostile economic environment.
All right, and now moving to the main source of energy for Nigerians, that is electricity. Now that the federal government is planning to review some of these prices, do you think that it might be for better for Nigerians? Perhaps this would also see a reduction, or do you foresee it being an increase in prices of electricity for both band B and C?
The general trend is that there will be an increase in price, and this will dovetail into increase in consumer prices. And of course, make relation really is that the issue of has not been properly addressed. You know, when you are unable to really handle those who are fleecing the economy through subsidy, and you believe that the only way to solve the problem is to remove subsidy, then you continue to create more problems. And the general masses will continue to suffer, and then the productive sector will suffer because there will be an increase in the cost of production. And you see, at the end of the day, life becomes a little bit more difficult. So I do not see, or I can't get why government should continue to increase the tariff. And of course, something is even very funny about this tariff matter, because it's only the transmission that is 100% owned by government. The generation and the distribution had been privatized. So why don't you allow those people to operate, and then let us see how it goes? Of course, this has forced many state governments to go into private production of electricity. And let us see how that will go. For instance, in Ogun State, I know there is a serious work going on to generate electricity outside of what is coming from the national grid. But the bottom line is that
Galaxy TV News, thank you so much for being a part of the news.
Thank you.
And that's Abi Abose, a lecturer from the University of OOU. And now still joining us to talk about this topic, we have Tolorunju Idowu, a public affairs analyst. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good evening, my sister. How are you today?
Well, thank you so much for being with us. So now that Dangote Refinery has slashed the price,
well, for me, I think it's a welcome idea. It's part of his goodwill for the country. He feels that the country has done enough to do the slash to enable the people of Nigeria to enjoy the goodwill of his organization. I think it's a welcome idea, and it's well appreciated for people of Nigeria, because we know what we're going through right now. So if one organization decides to come up with a splash, it adds up to what the government is already fighting for. So it's a plus for us. 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 And it will add to the economic value of the country. It's okay.
Electricity, the federal government had once said that they would move all of Nigerians to Band A in order to ensure all Nigerians get the same amount of electricity supply on a daily basis. But now that the federal government wants to review the prices for Band A, do you think that perhaps this is towards that stage of making all Nigerians pay the same for electricity, or do you see it as still paying higher for electricity and still not getting the value of what we are paying for?
To be candid with you, we are paying higher for what we are not getting value for, because it's enormous. Because the cost of living is difficult for virtually a lot of Nigerians. So I don't think it's really a good idea, because they need to look at it politically, because a lot of people are under pressure as to speak, and that will lead to crime. I hope you get it. So there is need for the government to have a dialogue with the people, so that people get to understand why the increment is coming on board. And if you're putting us on band A or band B, whatever band you call it, you must enlighten the people first on what level of band they are going into. Now, you're talking about minimum wage. Minimum wage, I'm sure that is just that has been paid. And even the government of the day, the central government has not even met up with the minimum wage to order parastatal or government agency. So what about the personal business owner? Have you thought about their businesses? Has it been increased? Are they making more profit? Which is no. The answer is no, then you should know that there's more pressure on virtually Nigeria, most Nigeria, to deliver. So the pressure is everywhere. So there is need for government to engage the people on dialogue, understanding this electricity tariff, because there was no awareness, no information about it. You don't just wake up in the morning and you put people on band A or band B for no reason, because we are all Nigerians. And I think government is there to regulate, to help the citizens to understand why things must go this direction. And as we speak, 95% of the people in this country don't have information. And information is more key to livelihood. So there is need for the government to interact with the people, make them understand why the tariff must be and how it should run, so that the people can flow with government. Without that, then there's no government. So there's need for the media to equally help us to engage the government, for the government to people, so that the people will not be living in a very hardship situation, so that the country will have a balance.
So much for sharing your views with us on Galaxy News. We truly appreciate being here with us at this time.
Thank you so much, my dear. Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, and that's Dolo Idowu, a public affairs analyst. And now we move on to the international desk for more news.
This is the news from the international scene. The United States has reported its first measles death in a decade after an unvaccinated child fell ill amid an outbreak of the highly contagious disease in Texas. The school-age child died overnight after being hospitalized in Lubbock, the state health department said in a statement on Wednesday. The death comes amid immunization rates in the United States and controversy over the appointment of vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr., country's top health official. More than 130 measles cases have been reported in Texas and the neighboring state of the New Mexico, almost all of them in people who were not vaccinated. Health officials have said most cases have been concentrated in a community of followers of the Christian sect, pockets of which are known for being wary of vaccines. Addressing the outbreak at United States, President Donald Trump's first cabinet meeting on Wednesday, who has prompted scientifically discredited research linking vaccines to autism, downplayed the outbreak as not unusual. The number of measles cases in the United States hit a nearly two-decade peak of 1,274 in 2019 before plummeting during the COVID-19 pandemic.